Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to talk about Agile framework, Agile mindset. It is different from the traditional project management framework, and we'll see why and we'll see what the differences are. So all the 49 project management processes, the 10 knowledge areas, the 5 process groups, they are now in the past, in the previous 9 lessons that we've just completed. Now let's focus on a brand new world of Agile, and we'll try to cover as much as we can in this little lesson. What is Agile? Agile is a mindset. It has its own values and core principles. Agile can be individual when a certain person believes in those values and principles and applies them and tries to communicate those values and principles to other team members. Agile could be the team vision, the common team vision. It's called team agility. And Agile could be organizational, when all the people in the organization believe in Agile values, and this is how they envision work on projects. There is a document called Agile Manifesto that states the core values and the core principles of Agile. Here I would like to quote the 4 values of Agile, and we will see where they are coming from. The first one is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. In the traditional project management framework, processes and tools mean a lot. We have 49 processes, we have tools and techniques. On top of that, organizations impose their own processes, their own tools that we need to use and we need to follow. And as a result, sometimes those come in contradiction with the interests of individuals. They come with contradictions with the time that individuals spend on interaction that would be so valuable to our project and to our product development. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Nobody says that there shouldn't be documentation for our software. However, delivering software as the first priority sometimes could be very important to the client and hence important to the organization, because we can provide value to our client ahead of time. And the documentation can be delivered at the last responsible moment when the documentation is really required. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Agile is about collaboration. Agile is about letting customer see the work as early as possible, test the result, and make sure that the team is moving in the right direction. Customer collaboration brings value. Contract negotiation is something that sometimes prevents us from collaborating with the customer at the early stage. Responding to change over following a plan. Remember, we were talking about the triple constraints: scope, schedule, and budget. So in Agile projects, we are trying to preserve the budget and the schedule. However, our scope changes frequently. Our client is telling us what their new priorities are, and we are very flexible in terms of including things into our scope, as opposed to the traditional project management framework when we need to issue a change request around every single change on our project. And this brings me to the next concept, the concept of incremental delivery or value-driven delivery. Minimal viable product is the set of functionality that does not constitute the entire product, yet it is complete enough to represent value to the client or to the end user. So to give you a very simple example, there can be a chair without the back. You can still sit on it, however, you cannot lean on that chair. So the chair without a back is still a chair. You can deliver a chair to your client, and the client can already sit on the chair without waiting for the complete chair to be developed. This is a very common approach for software development. Let's say you have customers and your customers are waiting for your software product to be ready. And your software product is supposed to provide your customers with 20 different features. So rather than waiting for all 20 features to be developed and waiting for a year to give that software product to your clients, you advertise the first release of your software with only 5 features in place. And your customers are taking advantage of that product. and your client receives that product from the development team and starts making money. So we deliver the value early, and that's what minimal viable product is all about. So a chair without a back, an online service with a minimal set of working features, a door without a handle. It's another minimal viable product. By delivering frequently, we continuously provide the customer with value. We deliver frequently and we deliver in small chunks. The list of product features, product log, is being constantly prioritized and reprioritized to make sure that the team is working on the items of highest value. This brings me to the next concept, which is releases and iterations. Agile products involve product releases. Does this mean that traditional projects don't do the same? Not exactly. So remember, I mentioned that Agile emerged around software development. And of course, it makes more sense when it comes to software development features. Yes, we can deliver them in increments. Can we deliver a construction project in increments? Probably we can. Let's say we are developing a site of 3 condo buildings. Can we deliver them one by one? Probably yes. We can deliver building number 1 and people start living in that building. In the meantime, we build building number 2, building number 3. Can we deliver half an airplane? Probably not. But for some industrial projects, this can also apply. So for traditional projects, we can also break our scope into phases, deliver phase 1 and then move into phase 2. However, in traditional projects, we don't apply frequent delivery. Our phases take months, if not years. Here we're talking about something very small and incremental. Agile projects involve product releases. Each release delivers a significant portion of the product functionality. Releases contain iterations, smaller project cycles that can be completed in 2-4 weeks. The scope of each iteration is determined based on the functionality, priority, and complexity. The amount of story points assigned to each user story. User story is the scope item in Agile. We'll talk about it in a moment. Iterations are time boxed. Their time is fixed. So we say, for example, each iteration is whatever we can fit in 2 weeks. So whatever we deliver in 2 weeks is our iteration. If a certain user story is not completed during the iteration, it goes back to the product log awaiting prioritization. So each time we prioritize, we take scope items, user stories from our log and include them into the upcoming iterations. Sometimes our scope items can wait pretty much forever until they are implemented or maybe even excluded from the scope of our project. Let's talk about user stories in greater detail. User stories are Agile product backlog items. User stories represent requirements small enough so that they could be implemented in a few days at most. User stories are created in the following manner. We state user stories in a very specific way without creating a huge business requirement document. Then we mention a role. I want certain functionality so that benefit. As a project manager, I want my project management tool so that I could schedule my projects. Here's my user story. User stories in the product backlog are prioritized and selected for corresponding iterations and product releases. So a release has a number of iterations. A release could last a few months. Iteration, as we mentioned, lasts 2 to 4 weeks. Also, in order to determine how many user stories and which user stories can fit in a release, they are estimated by assigning so-called story points. Agile estimating techniques. Agile estimates could be anything from simple estimates in hours, like 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours worth of effort, just like we do in traditional project management, or so-called t-shirt sizing, small, medium, large. We can do that as well. To multiple techniques to assess user stories by assigning them story points. Story points are typically numbers from Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence is the sequence when each number represents the sum of the previous 2 numbers in the sequence. So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on and so forth. So the more complex the user story is, the more complex it is for implementation, the higher the Fibonacci number assigned to it would be. A good example of an agile estimating technique is so-called planning poker, when team members are given cards with Fibonacci sequence numbers, and once a user story is read and discussed, everyone puts a card with a number to indicate their assessment of story complexity. And team members clearly need to agree on their complexity before they provide commitments. Speaking of Agile project team is different from a traditional project team. Agile project team has more responsibilities than a traditional project team. They coordinate their own work, provide estimates, and make technical decisions. Project manager in Agile environment is executing so-called servant leadership. Project manager is supposed to shield the team from external disturbances. Project manager is supposed to meet with the team to make sure that there are no impediments that prevent them from moving ahead. However, project manager does not intervene when it comes to estimating the work, when it comes to choosing how to do the work. This is all done internally. On top of that, Agile team tends to engage or to grow generalizing specialists. Those are people who can do more than one thing. For example, a developer who can also do testing, or a developer that is specializing in one thing who can over the time become a specialist in another thing or another technology. So this is called generalized specialist. It's very important to balance the work when you have more than one person that can do more than one thing on the team. Agile project teams are self-directing. They use their own knowledge and judgment to determine how to do their work, and self-organizing. They make their own local decisions. Kanban board. Kanban board is a useful tool that helps to visualize the activities, to monitor and control the workflow, to assign tasks, and to control the amount of work in progress. Basically, what is Kanban board is just a board with stickers on it, and stickers represent tasks that are in progress. Or there are so many software products that simulate the Kanban board. Activities are represented by sticker notes that are pulled from one column to the other as the work progresses. So basically we have, for example, a column of the planned work, work in progress, and the work that is done. Or we can break it further into more columns. The work that is not started, the work that is in development, the work that is in testing, the work that has been tested, and pending verification. The project team can set work in progress limits for each particular type of task. For example, development, testing, etc. We can say we are not taking care of more than 3 development items at a time. Why are we doing that? Because it has been mathematically proven that lower work in progress levels increase team productivity and help easily identify bottleneck activities. We can see where we are stuck if we have not too much work in progress. In addition, Kanban boards help team members see the big picture rather than only their individual task. We see what other team members are doing and see the interdependency and can suggest improvements. Let's see an example of a Kanban board and a work in progress. So here we have 5 columns: not started, in development, in testing, pending approval, and done. And we set work in progress limits. We said that we can deal with not more than 5 items for the work that is in development, not more than 5 items for the work that is in testing. We can have not more than 3 items pending approval, and no limits for not started and for done. So let's say we have an item which is marked with green right now, that is in development. So we completed the development. What do? We pull it into our in testing column. Now it is being tested. However, if we want to move that item to the column pending approval, we cannot do that because we have 3 items already, and it will not be moved further until one of those items is done. Agile monitoring tools. Agile has a number of very valuable monitoring tools, And of course, I encourage you to read more about them if you're interested. These graphics are normally shared through information radiators. Information radiators are dashboards that are installed in common areas so that each stakeholder can see what's going on by looking at those dashboards. They have all those graphic representations. Burn down charts demonstrate the amount of work remaining on the project in hours or story points, remaining on the project or remaining on the release of the project. Burn up charts show the amount of work completed on a project. So burn down chart always goes down, burn up chart always goes up, right? Because we complete more and more and more story points. Burn down chart, we burn story points and we only see the remaining amount of story points. Risk burn down charts are cumulative diagrams that show the severity of each risk and of all project risks together over time. In my opinion, this is a very beautiful representation tool for risk management. Let's see a few examples. Here is what a burn down chart looks like. So we have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and we have the amount of hours or story points in the column. So you can see how the burn chart goes down over time from one week to another. Here is a risk burn down chart example. So we have 5 risks and we see how the risk severity changes over time. So in this case, we use the severity as a multiplication of our impact and probability, or it could be a different ratio that we assign to severity. Remember, when we were talking about risk management, we said that sometimes risks are considered to be more severe or more urgent if they're coming next week. Agile team roles. We will use Scrum as one of the Agile models to demonstrate the project roles. So the first role is called development team. Development team is actually a group of people. It's the group of industry professionals that build the product increment. What is the product increment? It is the part of project scope that was selected for a particular iteration or a particular release. It was selected by another person on Agile team, and that role is called product owner. Product owner is the person responsible for prioritizing the product backlog to maximize the product value. It is not quite true that the product owner selects the items for a particular iteration. Product owner only says which items have higher priority, and then the development team estimates each of these items and assigns a certain amount of story points. Let's say they came up with a conclusion that the 5 user stories that product owner selected are way too much to be implemented in this 2-week time box, 2-week time frame. They say, sorry, but we can only fit these 4 stories. We cannot include the 5th one. Please reprioritize and tell us which 4 you would like us to include. So this is how it works. The product owner prioritizes user stories or scope items, and the development team estimates and includes those scope items into the next iteration. Scrum Master is a servant leader to the development team who is responsible for the efficiency of the methodology use. So the Scrum Master is the one who watches for the correct use of the methodology, and the Scrum Master is the servant leader. The Scrum Master meets with the team on a daily basis, so-called daily Scrum. Scrum Master listens to what the team has accomplished. Each team member says that yesterday they did this and this and this. Today they have the following plan, and this is what they're planning to achieve. And here are the problems that prevent them from being efficient. So it's Scrum Master's role to remove the impediments that were identified during the daily Scrum meeting. Hybrid methodologies. So despite the fact that Agile has a lot of advantages, in many cases organizations don't practice pure Agile. They want to practice the best of Agile. However, it is very difficult for them to transition completely from traditional methodologies to Agile. So what they do, they practice hybrid models. For example, for projects where detailed business requirements documentation is needed, the requirements phase may be conducted using the traditional project management methodology. And once the overall scope is approved, an iterative agile approach can be used for development and testing cycles. It's just an example. Practicing a hybrid approach reduces the risks of extensive agile exposure with resources and teams that do not possess sufficient agile experience. It is very important for agile to make sure that each team member is experienced with agile. Agile is not something that can be adopted in an instant. That is why using hybrid models is probably safer and more reliable for many organizations that decide to practice, to adopt some of the agile practices. And this concludes our lesson and our crash course. Thank you for being with us on this journey. Hope you enjoyed it. Good luck with your projects.